What if some of the greatest songs of the 1970s were hiding stories the music industry didn't want you to know? Beyond the riffs, there were broken relationships, corporate battles, and artists who refused to play by the rules. Some songs were born from chaos. One was considered so risky, even the people around the band weren't sure it would survive. Tonight, we're opening the vault. 8 legendary songs, 8 dark stories, and the deeper we go, the darker it gets. Number 8. Life on Mars by David Bowie. David Bowie had already begun turning himself into something the music industry wasn't quite prepared for, and that was part of the problem. Take a look at the long. Because Bowie wasn't interested in simply becoming famous. He wanted to become something else entirely. Something nobody had seen before. In 1971, Bowie released Life on Mars, and at first glance, the song sounds almost impossible to explain. And she's hooked to the sill. It moves through strange images: Hollywood, cinema, romance, youth, confusion, a world that seems colorful and enormous, yet somehow deeply lonely. That Mickey Mouse has grown up. But that strange quality wasn't accidental. Bowie was becoming increasingly fascinated by the artificial nature of popular culture. No, and her daddy has told. The way movies could make life look beautiful, the way pop stars could create characters, the way audiences could fall in love with an image rather than the person underneath it. And Bowie understood that better than almost anyone. Before Life on Mars became a classic, Bowie had already been experimenting with identity, songwriting, fashion, and performance. He wasn't simply trying to write another hit. He was trying to escape the limitations of being David Jones. The man who would become David Bowie was constantly reinventing himself, and eventually, that reinvention would produce Lennon's on sale again. Ziggy Stardust, a character, a costume, a mythology, a superstar who seemed larger than life. Oh man, beating up the wrong guy. Mythology, a superstar who seemed larger than life. But there was a price to constantly creating new versions of yourself. The audience wanted Bowie to keep surprising them. The industry wanted another success, and Bowie himself seemed almost incapable of standing still. That tension is hiding inside Life on Mars. The song feels like someone looking at the spectacle of modern life and asking, is this really all there is? The music makes the question even more powerful. The piano sounds almost grand and cinematic. The strings swell, and Bowie's voice moves between vulnerability and theatricality. It's beautiful. But there's something unsettling underneath it. A feeling of isolation. A feeling that the world is full of entertainment, while the individual standing inside it doesn't know where they belong. That became one of Bowie's great contradictions. He could command an audience of thousands while creating music that often sounded intensely private. And the more famous he became, the more complicated that relationship became. Bowie would eventually push himself into increasingly ambitious transformations. The Thin White Duke, Berlin, electronic experimentation, and countless reinventions afterward. But Life on Mars captures an earlier moment, the moment when an artist was discovering that fame wasn't necessarily about becoming yourself. Sometimes it was about becoming whoever the world expected you to be, and perhaps that's the darker secret hidden inside the song. The man who became famous for constantly changing may have been searching for a version of himself he could actually live with. Number 7. Brown Sugar by the Rolling Stones. Few songs in the history of rock music have a more complicated relationship with controversy than Brown Sugar. The Rolling Stones released it in 1971. And immediately, the song had everything that made the Stones dangerous in the public imagination. Swagger, sex, guitars. Wondering where it's gonna stop, how far it knows. A filthy groove, and lyrics deliberately designed to provoke. But underneath the famous riff was something much darker. The song references slavery, sexual exploitation, and racial violence. And that contradiction has followed it for decades. Just around midnight. Because the music sounds exhilarating. The subject matter is disturbing. That's exactly what makes the song so uncomfortable to revisit. The Rolling Stones were never interested in presenting themselves as polite entertainers. They built their identity around rebellion, danger, excess, and the idea that rock and roll should make respectable society nervous. By the early 1970s, however, the Stones weren't outsiders anymore. They were enormous stars. And that created a fascinating contradiction. The band had become part of the establishment they had once seemed to challenge. They were making huge amounts of money, playing enormous venues, living lifestyles that most of their audience could only imagine. Yet their music continued selling the image of dangerous outsiders. Brown Sugar sits right inside that contradiction. The Stones could turn controversy into commercial power. The more outrageous the image, the more attention they received. And attention was currency. The band's lifestyle during this era only intensified the mythology. There were drugs, luxury, parties, danger, and an increasingly chaotic relationship with fame. The Stones were becoming famous for surviving the lifestyle as much as for the music itself. But Brown Sugar demonstrates something important about 1970s rock. Controversy wasn't always a problem for superstar musicians. Sometimes, controversy was part of the product. The song's groove was irresistible. The guitar riff was unforgettable. And that allowed the record to move from radio stations to stadiums, and eventually into rock history. But decades later, audiences began listening to the lyrics differently, and the question became unavoidable. When does artistic provocation cross into something genuinely disturbing? The Stones have never offered a simple answer, and perhaps there isn't one. Oh, are you ready? What remains is the record itself, a massive rock song built around one of the most controversial lyrical subjects in the band's catalog. And that's the darker story. The Rolling Stones discovered that, at the highest level of fame, even scandal could become part of the machine. Number 6. Anarchy in the UK by Sex Pistols. Then came a song that sounded like the music industry had completely lost control. Anarchy in the UK. The Sex Pistols weren't supposed to become respectable. They weren't supposed to become polished. They weren't even supposed to make everyone comfortable. They were supposed to make people angry. And they succeeded. Released in 1976, Anarchy in the UK arrived like an insult, directed at almost everybody. Politicians, institutions, the establishment, and eventually, the music business itself. Johnny Rotten's voice didn't sound like traditional rock singing. It sounded confrontational. The guitars sounded unstable. The entire recording felt like something that had escaped from the underground and refused to apologize for it. But the fascinating part of the story is what happened when the industry tried to contain the band. The Sex Pistols were signed to EMI, and EMI quickly discovered that signing the most provocative young band in Britain came with consequences. The band's public behavior created controversy. The television appearances became infamous, and the record company found itself dealing with a group that seemed almost impossible to manage. Eventually, EMI dropped them. That should have ended the story. Instead, it made the mythology bigger. The Sex Pistols became living proof that the establishment couldn't control punk. And the music industry had accidentally helped create the legend. Anarchy in the UK wasn't just a song anymore. It was an identity, a declaration that young people could reject the rules entirely. And that was frightening. Because it wasn't polished rebellion. It didn't sound like a superstar carefully designing an image. It sounded immediate. Ugly, angry, real. The irony is that punk would eventually become commercially valuable too. The industry that punk musicians hated would learn how to package punk, sell punk, promote punk, and make money from the very rebellion that once threatened it. But before that happened, Anarchy in the UK represented something genuinely disruptive. A generation that didn't want another guitar hero. They wanted to tear down the stage. They wanted to question everything. And they wanted the music to sound as uncomfortable as the world felt. The Sex Pistols didn't destroy the music industry. But they exposed something important. The industry could sell rebellion until rebellion became impossible to control. And Anarchy in the UK was one of the moments when that control began slipping. Number 5. Stairway to Heaven by Led Zeppelin. Few songs have accumulated as much mythology as Stairway to Heaven. And that's part of its story. The song became enormous. Radio stations played it constantly. Guitarists learned every note. By the brook, there's a songbird. Fans searched its lyrics for hidden meanings. And Led Zeppelin became one of the biggest bands on earth. But the mythology surrounding the song became almost as famous as the recording itself. There were stories about mysticism, stories about hidden messages. With a word she can get what she came. Stories about what happened inside Led Zeppelin's world when the band became unimaginably successful. Some claims surrounding the song have been exaggerated over the years. But the reality was already dramatic enough. Led Zeppelin had reached a level of fame where normal rules seemed increasingly irrelevant. The band wasn't operating like an ordinary rock group. They were operating like an institution. Their concerts were enormous. Their records sold at extraordinary levels, and their reputation for excess became legendary.
There's a sign on the wall,
but Stairway to Heaven itself was remarkably different from the hard rock image surrounding the band. It begins quietly. Acoustic guitar, a restrained vocal, then gradually, the song grows, layer by layer. The arrangement becomes larger, the guitars become heavier. And eventually Robert Plant is almost screaming over one of Jimmy Page's most famous guitar performances. It's a musical journey from intimacy to spectacle, and perhaps that's why it became such a perfect symbol for Led Zeppelin. The band itself followed a similar trajectory.
To the west, and my spirit.
A small group of musicians became one of the most powerful acts in rock, and power changes everything. When you're no longer fighting for recognition,
Stairway to heaven.
You start fighting to protect your position. Led Zeppelin had extraordinary control over its artistic direction. They weren't interested in simply following whatever the record business wanted. They had earned enough leverage to make their own decisions.
If the stars are all closed.
And that independence became part of the band's mythology. But there was another side to that freedom. With enormous success,
Then the piper will lead us to.
Came enormous expectations. Every album had to matter. Every tour had to be bigger. Every performance had to live up to the legend. And the larger the legend became, the harder it became for the actual people inside the band to escape it. Stairway to Heaven
Was laughter. Do you remember laughter?
Eventually became almost too famous to belong to Led Zeppelin. It became public property, a cultural ritual. A song that generations of listeners inherited. And maybe that's the real secret. The song wasn't simply about climbing towards something higher.
But I got some good news, people.
Led Zeppelin themselves had climbed to the highest level of rock superstardom. And once you reach the top, there is nowhere left to go except down. Number 4, Money, by Pink Floyd. One of the strangest songs about greed ever written, became a huge commercial success. Money, by Pink Floyd. The irony is almost too perfect. The song attacks materialism. And the song made its creators even more successful. Released on the Dark Side of the Moon in 1973, Money opens with one of the most recognizable sounds in rock history. Cash registers, coins, paper. Then comes the bass line, simple, mechanical, almost hypnotic. It sounds like money itself has become a rhythm. But listen closely to what the song is doing. It's not celebrating wealth, it's mocking the obsession with it. The song portrays money as something that can distort human behavior. People want more. Then more again, and eventually, the pursuit becomes the entire game. For Pink Floyd, this was especially interesting. Because the band was moving into a completely different level of commercial success. The Dark Side of the Moon would become one of the most successful albums ever released. And suddenly, a band known for experimentation was sitting at the center of the music business. The very system they could criticize was making them extremely wealthy. That contradiction is part of what makes money so effective. The band wasn't pretending they were outside capitalism. They were inside it, deep inside it. And they knew it. The song also reflects the larger atmosphere of the 1970s. The decade was filled with economic uncertainty, changing social values, corporate power, and growing distrust of institutions. Money captured that tension in a way that didn't require a political speech. You could dance to it! You could nod along to the bass, and then realize the song was laughing at the entire obsession. That's what Pink Floyd did so well. They could make complex ideas sound simple, and Money became one of their biggest songs precisely because it turned an abstract subject into something physical. You could hear the cash, you could feel the greed. You could almost count the coins. But there is another irony. The more successful the album became, the more valuable the song became. The criticism of Money had become money, and perhaps that's why the song has aged so well. Because the contradiction never disappeared. If anything, it became stronger. The world keeps changing. Technology changes. Music changes. But the temptation remains. More money, more success, more status, more everything. And Pink Floyd turned that obsession into a groove. Number 3, Go Your Own Way by Fleetwood Mac. If you want to hear what a collapsing relationship sounds like, listen to Go Your Own Way. Fleetwood Mac's Rumours is often remembered as one of the greatest albums ever made. But behind the beautiful harmonies was emotional chaos. The band was falling apart personally. Relationships were breaking. Arguments were constant, and somehow they still had to walk into the studio together and make an album. That is the strange story behind Go Your Own Way. Lindsey Buckingham wrote the song during the breakdown of his relationship with Stevie Nicks. And instead of processing that breakup privately, he turned it into a song, a very successful song. But also a very personal one. The title sounds almost empowering. Go your own way. Move forward. You can go your own way. Leave me behind. But the emotion underneath it isn't peaceful. It's bitter, frustrated, heartbroken. And sometimes angry. Buckingham's guitar work gives the song its restless energy. The drums hit hard. The rhythm pushes forward, and the chorus feels like someone trying to convince themselves that they don't care. But they clearly do. That's what makes the recording so powerful. The musicians weren't acting. They were living through real emotional conflict. Fleetwood Mac had become a band where personal relationships and professional relationships were impossible to separate. Christine McVie was dealing with her own marital problems. John McVie and Christine were divorcing. Mick Fleetwood's personal life was complicated. Buckingham and Nicks were breaking apart, and yet all of them had to keep making music together. Imagine walking into the studio knowing the person singing across from you is someone you love, and someone you may no longer be able to live with. Then imagine having to perform their words perfectly. That's the strange alchemy of rumors. Pain became music. Arguments became harmonies. Heartbreak became an album that sold millions. And Go Your Own Way became one of the clearest examples. The song isn't polished emotional therapy. It's a wound with a melody, and that's why it still feels alive. Because somewhere inside that performance is the tension of people who couldn't simply walk away. They had contracts, they had fans, they had an album to finish. They had millions of dollars riding on their ability to work together. And so they did something almost impossible. They turned personal destruction into professional brilliance. Go Your Own Way wasn't born from harmony. It was born from conflict. And somehow, the conflict made the music stronger. Number 2. Hotel California by Eagles. At first, Hotel California sounds like paradise. A long drive, a beautiful woman, a mysterious
Up ahead in the distance, I saw a shimmer.
Hotel, palm trees, warm desert air. Everything feels luxurious until you realize the door may not open. That's the darkness at the center of one of the greatest songs of the 1970s. The Eagles released Hotel California in 1976, and the song quickly became much more than a hit. It became a mystery. Fans wanted to know what the hotel represented. Was it about drugs, Hollywood, Satan?
There were voices down the corridor.
Satanism, California, fame. None of those explanations completely captures it, because Hotel California works precisely because it doesn't give you one simple answer. The song presents a world of temptation. You arrive somewhere beautiful. Everything looks perfect, but gradually, the beauty becomes disturbing. The hotel can be understood as a metaphor for excess.
And I was thinking to myself, this could be heaven or this could.
For the seductive lifestyle surrounding Los Angeles in the 1970s, for fame, for addiction, for the entertainment industry itself, you get everything you thought you wanted, and eventually
Some dance to remember.
they discover that you cannot leave. That idea was especially powerful during the era when Los Angeles had become one of the centers of American music. The dream was enormous: become a star, make records, get rich, live in California,
Call him the captain. Please bring me my.
experience the glamorous life. But behind the glamour was another reality: drug use, excess,
She got the Mercedes Benz.
ego, competition, and artists who could become trapped by the very lifestyle they had dreamed about. The Eagles understood
Any time of year.
that world, and Hotel California turned it into a nightmare. The instrumentation makes the transformation even more
To the Hotel California.
effective. The song begins gently, then the tension grows, and eventually it reaches the famous guitar finale.
Her mind is differently twisted.
Two guitars trading lines, building, answering each other, until the song feels almost like it is refusing to end.
How they dance in the courtyard.
That's important, because the music itself mirrors the story. You enter, you experience the spectacle, and
Is here of our own device.
then you're still there. The hotel doesn't let you go. The Eagles would later become one of the biggest bands in American music,
Gathered for the feast.
which makes the song even more fascinating. They were criticizing a culture of excess while becoming incredibly successful within.
To receive. You can check out any
in that same culture. But perhaps that was the point. Hotel California wasn't necessarily saying, don't become successful.
Such a lovely place, such a lovely place, such a lovely.
It was asking, what happens when success becomes the only thing you know? What happens when pleasure becomes dependence? What
Time you like, but you can never leave.
happens when the dream becomes a prison? And that's why the song still feels mysterious. Because every generation has its own version of Hotel
And in the master's chambers,
California, a place that promises everything, but quietly asks for everything in return. Number 1. Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen. And now, number 1. A song so unusual
to make you cry. If I'm not right,
that even the music industry wasn't sure what to do with it. A song that ignored the rules of commercial radio, stretched far beyond the normal length of a single,
and shivers down my spine. Body's ache.
and risked becoming too strange for the mainstream. That song was Bohemian Rhapsody. When Queen released it in 1975, it didn't sound like anything else on the radio.
Mama, she's killed a man.
There was no simple verse and chorus. Instead, Freddie Mercury created something that moved through completely different musical worlds. A quiet ballad, an operatic explosion, a hard rock attack, then silence. It was ambitious, expensive,
Has begun.
and completely unpredictable. And that was exactly the problem. The record industry was built around formulas, short songs, catchy choruses, easy-to-program singles. Bohemian Rhapsody seemed to ignore all of that. But Queen refused to cut it down,
Carry on. There's nothing really matters.
simply to make it easier to sell. The band had taken a huge creative risk, and the recording itself was just as ambitious. Mercury's vocals were layered again and again, creating the illusion of an enormous choir. The famous operatic section wasn't created by some giant orchestra. It was built in the studio, piece by piece, through countless vocal overdubs. Then suddenly, the entire mood changes. Brian May's guitar crashes in.
I'm just a poor boy, nobody.
The opera gives way to hard rock, and just when you think you've figured out where the song is going, it changes again. That unpredictability became its greatest strength. But there was another mystery. What exactly was Freddie Mercury trying to say? For decades, listeners have searched the lyrics for a definitive meaning. Was it confession, fantasy, identity, guilt? Something deeply personal. Mercury never gave the world one simple explanation that settled the debate. And perhaps that's why the song became so powerful. Everyone could find something different inside it. But the biggest risk wasn't only the meaning, it was the format. A song this strange could easily have disappeared. Instead, audiences embraced it. Bohemian Rhapsody became a massive success and eventually one of the most recognizable songs in music history. Queen had taken something that looked commercially impossible and turned it into an anthem. And that may be the darkest secret behind the song. The music industry often tells artists what they need to remove, what they need to shorten, what they need to simplify. Queen did the opposite. They kept the strange parts.
Nothing really matters.
They kept the ambition. They kept the risk. And they proved that sometimes the biggest mistake an artist can make is listening too closely to people who are afraid of something different. Bohemian Rhapsody didn't just become a hit, it became a warning. Never assume the audience only wants what it already understands. Sometimes, the song that breaks every rule is the song people remember forever. 8 songs, 8 stories, and behind every one was a side of the 1970s that most listeners never heard. Broken relationships, industry pressure, controversy, excess, and artists willing to risk everything to create something unforgettable. From Fleetwood Mac's emotional chaos to Pink Floyd's obsession with money, to Queen breaking every rule with Bohemian Rhapsody.
Goodbye, everybody.
These songs didn't become classics because everything went perfectly. They became classics because something went wrong.
Pull my trigger, now he's dead.
And the artists turned that chaos into music. So the next time you hear one of these songs, listen a little closer. Because behind some of the greatest records ever made, there's a story the music itself never tells. If you enjoyed this journey, subscribe to 70's Vault. More forgotten stories, legendary songs, and secrets from the golden age of music are waiting inside the vault. Until next time, keep listening and keep digging.